This is the story of that glorious yet tragic operation, which in Mr. Churchill's words, will take a lasting place in our military annals and will, in succeeding generations, inspire our youth with the highest ideals of duty and of daring.
What is up guys, Joe the Madio here and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to visit Arnhem and the battlefields around the city. Right now I'm standing in the village of Wolfheze to the north near the landing zones. On September 17, 1944, the British paratroopers landed. You guys can see the glider monument behind me. In these fields, the field behind me and the field across the road, is where the 1st Parachute Brigade landed and the 1st Air Landing Brigade landed on September 17, 1944. It is such a beautiful area, guys, and it is unreal if you guys realize what happened here. So I'm going to show you guys today the landing zones here, and we're going to follow one battalion that landed here on the September 17th and September 18th, and that is the 2nd Battalion of the South Staffordshire Regiment. Now they landed here on September 17, 1944 and also on September 18th. And they really went through hell, guys. They went through hell near Arnhem, and their story is, it's such an incredible story. It's a bloody story, but I think you guys will love it, and we're going to visit the actual locations, and I will show you guys some then and now pictures that were taken then, and we're going to show you guys some footage of how it looks right now. So, if you guys are ready, let's go. So the 1st Air Landing Brigade had the task to keep the landing zones secured for further lifts and further airdrops, supply drops. Now, right now this is landing zone S. This is where the South Staffordshire Regiment jumped. To the west jumped the King's Own Scottish Borderers, and to the south, more near the village of Hilsum, that's where the 1st Battalion of the Border Regiment jumped. Now, on December 18th, the paratroopers at Arnhem, they weren't able to hold and secure the bridge. It wasn't possible, and so to relieve pressure, the South Staffordshire, the 2nd Battalion of the South Staffordshire Regiment was sent to relieve pressure and also help the 1st Brigade of the help the 1st Brigade relieve and help them advance into Arnhem and relieve pressure for the troops at the bridge, and also help them in capturing the bridge. Now this task resulted, as I said earlier, into a bloody fight. A bloody fight. And yeah, let's go pick up the train. Well, I think I'm gonna go to the train, then take the bus onto Oosterbeek, and I'll show you guys the road that the 2nd Battalion of the South Staffordshire Regiment took on their way to relieve the pressure at Arnhem. So let's go. Alright guys, what a beautiful place this is. What an amazing feeling to walk on the landing zones, to walk, I don't know, in the footsteps of the British paras. By the way, if you're planning to visit the landing zones, Wolfhaze for example, it is easily accessible from Arnhem city by train. The train station is literally a 6-minute walk to the drop zones. That's right there. You can probably see it. That's the train station, and it's just 6 minutes walking down the road. It's very easy to, to get here, and also to Oosterbeek, because there's another train station at Oosterbeek, and from there I'll just take the bus. But if you're renting a car, of course, it's much easier. But if you're not renting a car and you're staying, for example, in Amsterdam or staying in Arnhem City or Nijmegen, get a train down to Utrecht or down to Arnhem, and from there hop on a smaller train to Wolfhaze. Very easy, and you get to see something cool. So yeah, just wanted to tell you guys that. Alright guys, so after taking the train to Oosterbeek, I took the bus and basically drove the route of the 2nd South Staffords, which they took on September 18th. Now, they got the orders about 10:30 in the morning, but on the day before, on the 17th, only the first part of the battalion arrived in the first lift. The second lift wouldn't arrive until 15:30 on the 18th. And the thing was, they got the orders very early in the morning, so, there was a little problem and a little delay in the second lift to arrive at the front line. Now, the reason why they were sent to Arnhem was because Major Urquhart, the commander of the 1st Airborne Division, was cut off from the division between the prison and the St. Elizabeth Hospital, and he had to hide from the Germans. As you guys can see on the map, the location of the prison and the St. Elizabeth Hospital. Now, Brigadier Hicks took over command of the division at the time, and he saw that the 3rd Para Battalion was bogged down around the hospital, and that's why he sent the 2nd Battalion of the 2nd South Staffords to that area. So from the landing zone they moved from Wolfhaze to Oosterbeek, and from there along the Utrechtseweg to Arnhem. During that move some photographs were taken, and well, you guys can see them right now. And so my bus is going actually along that road, so that's very, very cool. Now my bus stopped at the point where the battalion HQ was set up on the evening of September 18th, when the South Staffords arrived there. And it was set up on the corner of the Oranjestraat and the Utrechtseweg, as you guys can see on the map. Now, you can also, the blue zones on the map, that's the zones of the companies. Now, D Company, the lead element, took up positions north of the road, in and around the houses and the gardens west of the high boundary wall of the hospital. So west of the hospital, the house is over there. I will show that in the video later. The B Company was in position across the road, slightly to the south, and A Company and the 11th Para Battalion were strung out along the Hulkensteinseweg and the Klingelbeekseweg. There was one problem. Company C and the battalion transport were still on their way from Oosterbeek. So this is just an overview for you guys to understand how it looked like on the 18th and in the morning, in the early morning of the 19th of September. And this will help you to understand the battles that I'm going to show you. Well, the battlefields that I'm going to show you and the story that I'm going to tell you. So yeah, guys, let's see what this place has to tell us. Oh, by the way, guys, before we move on, I just want to give a huge shout out to Ben McGregor for helping me out in this research. Researched a lot of things together, but he knows like so much. So Ben, thank you very much, and yeah, let's keep on the research. Alright guys, I am very close to the battlefields, but I just wanted to show you a very important part. I'm standing at the Utrechtseweg, the corner of the Utrechtseweg and the intersection of the Utrechtseweg and the Oranjestraat, which is literally called Orange Street. But right here on the corner, in this house right here, it says Fair Hill. This is where the battalion HQ was located. The command post, battalion command post headquarters of the 2nd Battalion South Staffordshire Regiment, and the other battalions, parachute battalions, were located here. Also, Lieutenant Colonel McCarty, the commander of 2nd Battalion South Staffordshire Regiment, set up his command post right here. And one officer described the scene as the house was filled with bullets, everything looked damaged, because of course the Germans, the fights had already been taking place here. And this is just a very important part of the scene, so I just wanted to show you guys. We're going further up the road. Utrechtsweg is the main road from Utrecht to Arnhem, and it was a very important road for the Germans and the British troops, you know, because they had to advance into Arnhem on their way to Arnhem by using this road. So yeah, let's go. Alright guys, so right now I'm sitting at the St. Elizabeth Hospital, and in the streets around here and in the road behind me, the area behind me, well, behind the camera, by the way, that's where the South Staffords dug in and positioned themselves on the evening of September 18, 1944. And when they arrived in the area, the troops of the 1st Parabrigade were already here, because the 1st Parabrigade was trying to break through into the city of Arnhem. So when the South Staffords arrived, they had to come up with a plan by the evening, because they would attack the next morning very, very early. The thing was that the 1st Parabrigade and the South Staffords had they had no time for any reconnaissance patrols or anything to see where the German main line of resistance was. So this was very, very difficult for the attack, the main assault onto, you know, to break through Arnhem. Another thing that was very difficult was the geography. The road just like 300 yards after the battalion HQ, the road diverges into two. And I'm now standing on the upper part of the beginning of the city of Nijmegen, and the lower part, that's where 1st Parabrigade was located. They had to attack from there to, you know, across the Rhine River, and the 2nd South Staffords would advance onto the Utrechtseweg into the upper part of the city. So they had no contact with each other, and it was very, very difficult during the main assault. But we will find it out later. We're now going up the road, and I will tell you guys what happened after. Alright guys, so from their original positions, the men of the South Staffordshire Regiment, the 340 men, started their attack at 4:30 a.m. in the morning. They would advance from their positions at the hospital along the Utrechtseweg, along this road, towards Arnhem. Now they knew the Germans were near, but they didn't know where, as I told you guys as well. The troops of the 1st Parabrigade would advance along this road right here. As you guys can see, the open area. Let me change the camera. Along this open area. And this, especially in the morning of September 19th, was a very, very dangerous. This was an open area, and the Germans along the Utrechtseweg, where the South Staffords advanced, they all had their machine guns fixed at like perfect height level, so they could hit the troops that were advancing over there. And also in this area, artillery was zeroed in, and the British knew that, so that's why they also had to start very, very early. But yeah, the attack even got late, 15 minutes late though, but they managed to attack. So D Company would lead the advance here along the Utrechtseweg, right here. They would lead the advance into the city of Arnhem. A and B Company would follow them, but the thing was, as soon as they got into the area here east of the hospital, all hell broke loose, guys. All hell broke loose. The Germans had their machine guns fixed in, as I said. They had their artillery and mortar fire zeroed in on this location, and the South Staffords already got 60% casualties. It is unbelievable. Major from A Company, Major Philip from A Company. He got shot through the stomach. It is unbelievable. Despite everything though, D Company managed to break the German strong point right here and advance further up the road. But also on the lower part of the city, as I told you guys, where the parachute brigade was centered, the same thing happened over there. Alright guys, so around 6 o'clock in the morning, the fight came into a lull, and they had a sort of pause. McCarty decided to send D Company down the slope right here. Down the slope, further, the lower part of the city, as I said, the lower part near the river. He decided to move them along this way, and A and B Company would still remain in the upper part and advance along the Utrechtse Weg. Of course they would be in contact, but it would be very, very difficult. Alright guys, right now I'm standing down the steep slope, and I'm gonna try and explain it to you guys as best as possible. So, as I told you guys, D Company was sent down the steep hill and would advance along the slope right here. And B Company was moving on further up the road, A and B Company, and they would take up positions in it is called the museum. It was back then, it was a museum, and you can see it right here, rising just above the trees. That place was called the museum, and it was a museum. Right now it still is, but back then it was too. D Company would move further up the road, down this hill, as I said, and they would fill in the gap between B Company, that was uphill, and 3rd Battalion, 3rd Para Battalion of the 1st Para Brigade, that was advancing also here in the open area, together with 1st Para Battalion along the river. The thing was though, the 3rd and 1st Para Battalion, they outpaced the advance of the South Staffordshire regiment, who was at first advancing on the upper part of the city. So the German troops broke down their attack, and because of that, the 1st and 3rd Battalion would have to, they would have to fall back, way back to the crossroads where the road diverges into two. This meant that the southern flank of the South Staffords was open. It was open, and they were all located here, just down the hill and up in the museum and on the road, and just in the buildings just to the west. So McCarty decided he asked for 11th Battalion, the 11th Para Battalion, which was, as I told you guys before when I showed you guys the map, they were together with A Company in the back. Here the Bokensteinse Weg and the Klingenbeekse Weg. The thing was though, that 11th Para Battalion had received different orders, and they would attack up north of this area, and that, because of total communication problems, everything here got chaotic, and it resulted into a bloody fight. Now, because of these communication problems, McCarty never received the news or anything about 11th Para moving up north. So he just waited. He positioned himself in the museum with the remaining companies, and he just stood his ground, waiting for 11th Para to arrive, which never came because they were up north. Now I want to move up north. I want to move up to the east. I want to move to the museum. I'm probably gonna go back along the road, because I have amazing and very, very interesting pictures that were taken during the German advance. I will do my best to do a then and now, which you guys will love. I'm sure you guys will love that. And of course I will continue in explaining how the attack continued, because it is very, very interesting, guys. And next week we're gonna continue with the South Staffords, because their fight didn't end after 3 days. They stood the ground much longer, but it won't fit in one video. So let's go and see you guys up at the museum. Alright guys, it is unbelievable that this thing that the Germans just wandered here. They walked here, they fought here. The little cabin, the wooden part of the museum wasn't there during the war, during the fights. So that's why it may not look exactly the same. It's because this whole entrance part of the museum, right, the current entrance, wasn't there in 1944. So the rest is just identical. Beautiful. Walking in the footsteps of the 9th SS right now, and of course 2nd South Staffords. Alright guys, so the fights at the museum, they are hard to explain because it was such a chaotic time and such a chaotic fight. But I will do my best to explain, and it's of course just to describe it in one way: chaotic. Now, there are certain elements, of course, to that. Let me tell you that the 2nd South Staffords were dug in. They were holding the museum, waiting for 11th Para to arrive, which never happened, of course. Now, during the morning, the German counter-attacks became more and more aggressive. Their defensive actions became more and more aggressive. At around 8 a.m., the first counterattack was repelled by the 2nd South Staffords in the museum. And the 2nd South Staffords were doing such a heroical job in doing so, because they were only light equipped. They were just light equipped with stun guns, with Lee Enfields, bayonets, Piats, PI-80s, anti-tank guns, rifles, and mortars. That's all they had. They didn't have any armor, which their armor was, I don't know, somewhere back. They just didn't have it. The Germans had Stugs, tanks, and there was a Stug brigade positioned close nearby. And at one point, a soldier described the fightings here that the mortars were almost vertical. Inside the mortars, in and around the museums, were almost vertical because the Germans, they were in the streets. As you guys have seen in the Den Now pictures, the Germans were in the Utrechtseweg, on the Utrechtseweg, in front of the museum, with tanks, self-propelled guns, just firing at the museum where the British Paras were located. Such a crazy thing. And McCarty, the commander, he was also here. He was directing the companies, giving them orders and such. Of course, because he was waiting for 11th Para to arrive. And this just stated, because of this, you know, the area around here, as you guys can see, the open area, their whole right flank was gone. 1st and 3rd Para were gone. Fighting a defensive battle while the German resistance grew stronger and stronger and stronger. So in the streets, in the houses at Utrechtseweg, the British and German troops just played a deadly game of hide and seek. The Germans coming with their vehicles and of course just infantry troops, SS troops, and then the British troops with their Piats trying to hold off the German advance as best as possible. Now, at one point they just ran out of ammunition. They had no supply. Communication was lost, and McCarty decided to withdraw. Well, McCarty decided to surrender, and he told Major Kane of B Company to fall back. And they did so. B Company under Major Kane fell back to the positions east of the hospital. A Company would then give them cover. And, Major Kane succeeded. But the thing was that McCarty, the commander of 2nd South Stafford, he stayed with his men here at the hospital, the men that were wounded, the men that were unable to get out, and they were captured by the Germans. And from here, the 2nd South Staffords had to withdraw after a heavy morning, a long morning of fighting against German troops in an area they, some of them never this is the last place that some of the soldiers saw. They gave their lives for a bridge. The objective to free and break through the German line of resistance and capture and help the other paratroopers at the Arnhem Bridge, help them capturing the bridgehead. It never succeeded. And from here, from the surrender on, the 2nd South Staffords, they just kept falling back. And to next week, this is very interesting for next week, because next week I wanna tell you guys the story of how, yeah, that mosquitoes. We're gonna follow the route of their retreat up to the way when they cross the Rhine River later on. So yeah, let's go up to the upper part, and I'll tell you guys some other things and show you guys some very interesting other stuff. But for now, the museum fights are over, and I hope you guys have a sense of how can you say this? Like I don't know. I hope you guys learned something from the fights around the museum, and that when you eventually visit this area, that you think to yourself, if you're watching and you know this area but you never knew of the museum fights, then I just want you to think about all those British paratroopers that got killed in this area and gave their lives. It is unreal. It is unbelievable, and it is incredible to stand here and honor those people, because that's what I'm doing. I'm just telling their story and I'm honoring them. And, yeah. I don't know how to imagine what happened here. I just don't know. It is just a hectic place, a hectic fight, and all I know is that a lot of lives have been spilled, a lot of blood has been spilled here, and many sacrifices have been made. Alright, I'm happy to see that there's actually at least one monument dedicated to the 2nd South Staffords and also the 11th Parachute Battalion of the Parachute Regiment. Just basically says that in the morning of the 19th of September they had incredible amount of losses, a huge amount of losses, and they had to withdraw back to Oosterbeek. So Lieutenant A.E. Barker's A Company was holding the buildings across the street at the museums, and as soon as Kane fell back, that position became unholdable too, because of the self-propelled guns that the Germans used. Now the wind is getting pretty loud. Battalion HQ was, at the moment the Germans ran down the streets here, they were in a building called the Crystal Lyceum, and I believe it's this building because this is the only old building, and this is at the moment is a school right now, and it is about 200 yards west of the museum. So I believe this is the Crystal Lyceum. It was the Crystal Lyceum. It doesn't hold the name anymore, but I believe it is. And this is the exact location where Battalion HQ was run down by German troops and captured. While Major Kane made it back in time, he escaped in time back to the hospital, which is over there. Let me switch the camera, because that it makes quite sense to where the line was at that moment. Hospital was still in a position, or in like the 2nd South Stafford still had the line at the hospital. The hospital is right there. So yeah guys, with the knowledge of what happened here during Operation Market Garden and the first 3 days of September, I gained so much respect for the British paras. Unbelievable. And I hope you guys do have that too. So I want to bring this video to an end. The winner of the giveaway of last week is right here. Contact me at the back end of my channel, and we will handle your contact details and address details from there. There's a new round of the giveaway. All you have to do is leave a comment, and you might want to tell me where we're going next week. So of course, no, the next week we're still going back. We're going back and visit the we're going to do the second part of the defensive actions of the South Staffordshire battalion. So yeah guys, final respects to the British paras unbelievable. What a day, and what happened here. It's crazy. I just cannot imagine. It's hard to imagine. So thank you guys for watching, and subscribe, tell your friends about my amazing channel, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Salute. Let's see you next time. Bye bye.